Let's welcome our first guest then. Rahul Arora joins in right in our studios. Rahul, hi, good morning. Good to have you back in our studios. Last time we spoke to you about 2 months back. From that point, of course, we've seen a big rally. What are your institutional clients telling you at this point in time? A bit overdone?
There's the voice of reason and then there's the voice of consensus, Anuj. I think if you want to go with the voice of reason, a lot of people are now starting to get cautious. But as I heard you say, you don't fight momentum. So there's a general consensus that the Nifty will probably head to 7,000, 7,200, either before or just at the cusp of the election outcome. But I think increasingly you're starting to see a little bit of buying come back incrementally into defenses. As you rightly point out, from the August lows, the Nifty has rallied about 30%. The Bank Nifty has rallied about 25%. And the rupee has appreciated by about 13-14%. So a lot of that may have to do with what people are expecting from the election outcome. But I must confess that most people that we speak to, even on the institutional side, are not expecting much more incrementally from here, more than a 5 to 10% kind of upside in the market, even if there is a favorable election outcome.
Okay. Rahul, hi, good to see you in this morning in our studios. You mentioned 7,000 possibly pre-election outcome. I would assume by May 16th, May 15th, you would possibly see that level or before that. In your sense, if in case there's a disappointment from the best case scenario that the market's factoring in from the elections, how much of a correction could the Nifty possibly see then?
I think it would be very substantial, Ekta, because I think right from the August lows, as we were discussing, what has materially changed on the ground has been the current account deficit and the fiscal deficit. And if you really strip those numbers down, it can be argued that the worst of both those numbers is not behind us. You've already seen that the hailstorms have created havoc in Madhya Pradesh and Maharashtra. And there are some reports that this year, elections, or rather the monsoons could be deficient. So I think inflation could play a bit of a spoiler. On top of that, if the scenario comes in that you say that we don't have a favorable election outcome, I think the downside could be fairly material, which could probably take the Nifty down to maybe even below 6,000 levels.
All right, Rahul, let's talk about stocks then. Bata was one of your favorite stocks. In fact, has been a favorite of a lot of institutions as well. But at current levels, are you still recommending your clients to buy, or are you recommending them to actually lighten their positions now?
This is a buy and hold stock for a very, very long time, Anuj. I think if you look at this is a calendar year stock. For CY15, we're at about 50 bucks EPS, so at about 1,100 rupees or there and thereabouts. The stock is probably trading at about 21, 22 times. It's the largest organized shoe manufacturer in the country, Anuj. And if you're ready to play the consumption theme in India, the largest shoe manufacturer doesn't even do a top line of 2,500 crores. It just gives you a sort of sense of what the scale of opportunity awaits Bata. You don't argue with a company that has the kind of return ratios that Bata has, giving you 15 to 20% top line and bottom line growth. So if it's a stock that you bought and held, hold on to it. If it's a stock that you missed out on, I would still advise people to come in and buy. Don't forget, Anuj, not too long back, the parent actually increased stake in Bata. So if that's something that they continue to do, that will continue to provide some support on the upside to that stock.
Okay, well, I notice besides that, within the MNC, FMCG space, you have two calls, Colgate and P&G. What's your rationale on that? Is it a delisting sort of play that you're looking at, or is it actually just volume and fundamental growth?
That would be the upside risk to the call. That's not the basis for the call, I must confess. I think, even though the market is heavily underweight on FMCG at this point in time, if you see the kind of earnings growth that we're expecting for Colgate, it's 60-65% over the next 2 years. And for Procter & Gamble, it's about 40-45%. There are a lot of companies in the cyclicals, or the beta as you call it, that will not give you that kind of earnings growth. So it's purely a call on earnings growth. Colgate probably trades you at 22-23 times FY16. Procter & Gamble will probably be around 26 to 28 times. So by MNC company standards, not even close to expensive. I think there's been a huge underperformance in these sectors. There are several levers that are going to play out in favor of Procter & Gamble. I think the margin recovery is going to be phenomenal, similarly for Colgate. And that's going to be substantiated by very strong 20% kind of plus volume growth. So I think the underlying business fundamentals of both these companies are extremely strong between FY14 and 16. And it's more a fundamental call. As you say, if that comes through, that's probably the cherry on the cake, if you will, but that's not the basis for the argument.
Okay, Rahul, couple of pharma stocks, outside the index, Natco and Cadila. What's the story here?
So Natco is a very interesting one, Anuj. It's a stock that's probably doubled, but I think if you look at the base business, at currently it's about 850 or thereabouts. Our own assessment is that the base business is probably valued at about 550 bucks. There's a drug called Copaxone, which is due to come in, and if it comes in through at any point this year, there's a significant upside risk to that. It's a multiple sclerosis drug. and that itself could provide a very, very significant kicker for it. There's another drug called Revlimid, which comes up in 2016. It's a $2.5 billion drug. So for the size of the company that Natco is, the pipeline that he has between now and say the next 3 to 4 years is probably the most aggressive of any non-index pharma company. And I don't think the valuations are too expensive, because these drugs, as Ekta would know, once you actually get these drugs into the base business, they start actually commanding a multiple. And once you start giving a multiple to these drugs, then the upside of proportionally goes up that much higher. So I think Natco is something that's looking very, very interesting. On Cadila, I think the big story there is transdermals. It's a very significant opportunity, and if Cadila can get even one of its approvals on transdermals going in the next couple of years, I think that the upside is quite substantial from there. They have indications from the management that might come through. I think both these stocks, Natco actually more so than Cadila, could be a multi-bagger even from these levels, is our assessment.
Okay, Rahul, I just want to get back to the markets then, because you just came back from a trip in Hong Kong and Singapore. What were the key takeaways that you saw, and what are FIIs thinking when they're investing money with net buys every single day that we're seeing, at least in the past couple of weeks?
So it almost seems like we're talking on May 16th and there's no life beyond Modi, to be very honest. And a lot of people that were underweight have gone neutral. A lot of people that were neutral have gone overweight. I don't think there's anyone that's taking a contrary view on India at this point in time. Partly because if you look at the other BRICS countries, China is slowing down, Brazil has its issues, and in that backdrop, you have a country like India where at the margins, things are seemingly getting better, though of course we have a slightly contrarian view. But I think there is a lot of money that we got a sense, speaking to certain very, very large FI investors, that if Modi was to come with a decisive mandate, that the upside could be quite substantial from here. But like I said, $150 million daily figure is something that we haven't seen substantially over an annualized period. I mean, we can go back to as far back as 2003. At some point, this will turn out. And as we discussed last time, there are a lot of other countries that are going to elections in the emerging market basket this year. So I think the relative incremental FI flows may not be as substantial. They not necessarily result in an outflow, but even if the delta of the incremental flows comes down, the upside could be capped in the not too distant future.
All right, just some news then. Supreme Court saying that there can be no fair probe until N. Srinivasan steps down, and in their view, N. Srinivasan should step down. Of course, his son-in-law, Meyyappan, is at the center of the IPL betting scam, and India Cement, the stock is reacting 54.60 on that, because N. Srinivasan is the owner of CEO as well of India Cement as well. So that's a bit of a reaction, knee-jerk reaction that you've seen on the stock, down about 2% or so. Rahul, any comments here? We had discussions on this.
No, I don't know if the IPL enjoys the flavor that it started on, when we first started seeing it in 2007-8.
Fair enough. Any disclosures on the stocks that you mentioned?
We are pretty much recommending most of the stocks that we've discussed to our institutional clients.
But no personal holdings?
No personal holdings.
All right, fair enough. Thanks a lot for dropping by, Rahul. That's the call from Nirmal Bang Institutional Equities. Let's take